if you're going to do a two-stage or a couple of layers on your glaze, then you want to mix up both of the buckets beforehand. If the buckets are a little closer to the top, then you'll want to use this. Also, if you can't figure out how to get it in forward, it'll splash all over. So this will be keep it from splashing all over the place. So you've got the hole cut in there. And that reduces the amount of splashing. It does give you one more thing to clean up and put away, but it's a lot easier than cleaning up the splashes that went everywhere. Again, rinse yours, rinse it off, put it away. I just mixed up the fake ash right before. I'm doing fake ash and green to black. On this one, I'm going to show you using the glaze tongs, which aren't where they belong. So these tongs, you can see those tips don't line up. You need to be careful how much pressure you put on there, because if you squeeze too hard, it will break your pot. It also is designed to be better if you put it one way versus the other. So this is going to put a little less pressure on it with the wide piece on the outside because of that curve. If you've got other bulges and curves, try and reduce the pressure. So we've got that wide spot on the outside, and I'm going to go with green to black first. And you can use this, dip all the way in. You can let it sit for a couple of seconds, which gives it just a touch more absorption, and then pull it out. This gives you a little more control on how those drips fall, although we do still have a couple of drips that are coming off of where my tongs are. So it doesn't completely solve the problem. But I do like a little bit of irregularity. This one's drying a little bit faster. It's actually because this was made out of paper clay, and so there's a little more higher porosity in this clay. But you can see those, if those bother you, when they get fully dry, which they're not yet, you can still see there's a little bit of moisture in there. You just rub the clay, and you can see where this part that was dry, it rubbed off smooth so that it's the same thickness as everything else, where that one's still a little bit thicker because it wasn't dry enough. But you can just rub to get that the same thickness as everything else. Again, we're going to wipe off the bottom. This one is plenty deep to leave the glaze on the inside of the foot. If you want to have the inside of your foot glazed, then this would be a good depth. You want to go about 1/4 of an inch. A full 1/8 to 1/4. If it's anything less than 1/8 of an inch, you can't leave the glaze there. And you can see this one doesn't have a distinctive, here's the bottom and here's the bevel. It doesn't need to. This whole thing is considered the bottom. It does need to have a distinctive edge between the bevel and the glaze catch. So it does have that, and that's what you want. Then if you're going to dip the top bit in, I'm going to let this dry a little bit and show you with this other cylinder, which I'm also going to dip the second half in a different color, which this one I'm going to do is Tamaku. So I'm going to mix it up again. If it's sat for more than 2 or 3 minutes, it needs to be mixed again. Drill is not sounding healthy. All right, so I'm going to dip just the top. If I don't want it to get on the inside, I can hold it so that it's just a really light seal over the top, and then press down as far as I want to go. There's a little decorative element in there that I want to go up to and not beyond, and then lift it out. And I try and be careful that when I release, I don't get too much of a splash. I'm going to leave this around here. If I kind of roll it like that, then the thickness on the rim will be a little bit more even as it's drying. And then when it's not going to drip anymore, I flip it right side up. If I put it in too fast, then an air bubble, as it escapes, it'll put one little splash, a little curve up on the inside in one spot. Otherwise it only goes in about 1/8 of an inch, and then the air pressure will keep it from going any further. So if you want that nice even look, that's kind of how you have to do it, really slow as you go in on that edge, and then press down from there. So there we go. That's nice. As this dried out, like you can see, I need to wipe this a little bit better. But this one's ready to go. Each glaze is going to have a different effect. Mixing Tomoka, which is a reddish brown, with the Chun white is not going to make it a lightish pink, reddish brown color. It's not like mixing paint. I haven't actually tried this combination, but a different kind of Tomoka with the Chun white actually does a rabbit fur where they separate and as they run down. This is green to black. Where this is thin, it's going to go dark brown. Where it's about the appropriate thickness, it's going to be black, and where it's extra thick, it's going to go green. I want to get some of that greenish in there, so I'm going to dip this one more time. Not all the way down, because it doesn't need to be all the way down. I don't want it to be too thick at the bottom, because that would mean it would be dripping off and running everywhere. So I do that, and then in a little bit I'm going to dip the top little bit into, I like the irregularities that are coming, but there's not enough around the outside. So I'm going to go in here and actually add some drips where there weren't any, because I want there to be some variety and texture to the glaze. And by texture I'm talking more about, there will actually be a little bit of physical texture, but more talking about visual texture. And so you can add that, and you can see the thickness where it's built up. If I wanted those to go away, I would just rub them smooth and get rid of those. Then I'm going to dip the top in a little bit of fake ash, so that texturing also is going to run down the side of the pot.